The scandal surrounding the family of Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden continues to ferment. After the New York Post exposed the contents of a computer hard drive allegedly belonging to Hunter Biden, second son of the former Vice President Joe Biden, Breitbart exclusively reported that Hunter Biden's business associate revealed how he used his father's position to arrange private meetings with Chinese investors and Communist Party officials at the highest levels in the White House. On October 16th, Breitbart reported that in 2019, Hunter Biden's former business associate, Bevan Cooney, reached out to their reporter, Peter Sweezer, the author of the book Secret Empires. From prison, Cooney provided Sweezer with written authorization, his email account name with password, and authorized in writing the publication of his emails. Cooney is currently in prison, serving a sentence for his involvement in a 2016 bond fraud investment scheme. Cooney believes he was a scapegoat for the fraud scheme and that Archer and Hunter Biden had avoided responsibility. The newly exposed emails have nothing to do with the recent computer hard drive revelations of the New York Post. Sweezer wrote that the newly obtained emails lay out in detail how the vice president's son and his colleagues used their access to the Obama-Biden administration to arrange private meetings for potential foreign clients and investors at the highest levels in the White House. A series of emails on November 5, 2011, reveals that a delegation of about 30 members organized by the China Entrepreneur Club, CEC, was introduced by Hunter to visit the White House and meet with Obama's then recently confirmed Commerce Secretary, John Bryson. In 2015, Cheng Hong, Secretary General of the Chinese Entrepreneur Club, stated in her resume that the delegation was received with the highest respect and greatest hospitality by the host countries, marked by meetings held with international political leaders, such as the U.S. Vice President Joe Biden. CEC's leadership consists of numerous senior members of the Chinese Communist Party, including Wang Zhongyu, Ma Weihua, and Jiang Xipei, among others. The delegation included Chinese billionaires, Chinese Communist Party loyalists, and at least one respected diplomat from Beijing. Despite its benign name, CEC has been called a soft diplomacy play and a second foreign ministry for the Chinese Communist Party. Before contacting Hunter Biden's associates, the CEC had been trying to get meetings with top Obama-Biden administration officials to no avail. Current affairs commentator Tian Yuan said that Hunter Biden's drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and countless extramarital scandals are enough to prove that he is completely incompetent. However, after Joe Biden became the vice president of the United States, Hunter Biden obtained huge benefits from China, and with funding from the CCP, entered the financial and energy sectors without any previous background or experience.
This clearly outlines a picture of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden taking advantage of Joe Biden being the vice president of the United States and doing a lot of power for money transactions with the CCP. In other words, these transactions themselves are much more serious than Hunter Biden helping senior CCP officials and investors gain entry to the White House.
Hunter Biden's actions were actually the result of the CCP's long-term deliberate pursuit and seduction. Then it's not only Biden's son, but many politicians in the United States have unclear relations with the CCP.
Chinese scholar Xue Chi pointed out that the exposure of Biden's son proves that whoever gets close to the CCP will run into trouble and will eventually fall into the pit with the CCP. On the same day that Cooney's emails were exposed, Rudy Giuliani, President Trump's personal lawyer, told the story of Hunter Biden's hard drive and listed the evidence through his YouTube channel. Evidence reveals that Joe Biden's younger brother, James Biden, who has never had real estate experience, won a $1.5 billion real estate contract in Iran, and that Hunter Biden also received a $3.5 million payment from a former Moscow's mayor's wife, Alina Baturina. He joined a board of directors of a Ukraine national gas company with his business partner, Devin Archer, with an annual salary of $2 million. Besides Russia and Ukraine, Hunter Biden made a deal with Yue Jianming, chairman of the CEFC China Energy Co. conglomerate, getting consulting fees of $30 million for 3 years. This evidence shows the Biden family's corruption with Iran, Ukraine, Russia, and China during the Obama administration. Giuliani said that the CCP also has all the adult photos on Hunter's hard drive and knows more. If the public sees it, they will know how the CCP will destroy and blackmail the Biden family.
A new wave of anti-government rallies and protests have risen in Thailand. On Sunday, tens of thousands of people took to the streets of Bangkok, demanding monarchy reforms and that Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha steps down. The young people passed out goggles, helmets and mineral water to their partners one by one. They told each other to take safety first under the tense atmosphere. This has been the scene on the streets of Bangkok, Thailand for more than 5 days. The anti-government protests started from a Thai campus and took to the streets on October the 14th. On October the 15th, the Thai government declared a state of emergency in Bangkok, banned gatherings of more than 5 people, and arrested more than 20 protesters. Thai police fired water cannons against protesters on October the 16th in central Bangkok. These actions aroused the support of celebrities from all walks of life overseas. Hong Kong student movement leaders Joshua Wong and Nathan Law posted slogans, "Stand with Thailand," on social media. On October the 17th, K-pop Thai-American singer Ni Kun posted on Twitter condemning the violence. Miss Universe Thailand Amanda Obdam and Taiwanese artist Chen Xiaxing also shared photos of the Thai student movement on social platforms, calling for everyone's attention.
I
want to be part of standing up for democracy because this is our opportunity. Everyone is out, so there is nothing to worry about.
I
am worried about my future. Many people realize that they cannot make our economy better. The last 6 years have proven this.
Thailand has seen 5 large-scale public protests since July this year. The current Thai king, Maha Vajiralongkorn, and Prime Minister Prayut have acted very unpopularly many times over involvement in diplomatic strategies with the CCP. In August, the Thai government, ignoring the economic recession and the people's livelihood, decided to spend nearly $720 million to purchase 2 submarines from China, causing huge public grievances and a suspension of the deal. Young people from Thailand, Hong Kong and Taiwan formed the Milk Tea Alliance earlier this year in response to the increased presence of Chinese trolls and nationalist commentators on social media. When the Thai government ordered the suppression of protests, people from Hong Kong and Taiwan continued to stand up in support of the Thai protesters, demonstrating the Milk Tea's alliance spirit of helping each other out.
On October 13th, the southern Chinese city of Shenzhen ordered all residents to prepare emergency supplies in 72 categories, such as enough food and water for 72 hours and a fire blanket. Last month, China's Emergency Management Ministry and several municipal governments, such as Beijing and Tianjin, issued similar orders, but the news didn't attract attention. Shenzhen made its announcement on the same day that Chinese leader Xi Jinping told troops to focus on preparing for war, fueling concerns that Beijing was getting ready for a conflict. Chinese leader Xi Jinping visited Marine troops stationed in Chaozhou City, about 220 miles away from Shenzhen and also in Guangdong Province, and told them to put all your thoughts and energies on preparing a war and remain on high alert. Shenzhen and Chaozhou are located to the west of Taiwan. On October 18th, Hong Kong-based newspaper South China Morning Post quoted a Beijing-based military source that the PLA, People's Liberation Army, the official name of Chinese military, had deployed its most advanced missile, the DF-17, to the country's southeast coast in preparation of a possible future invasion of Taiwan. The Chinese regime considers Taiwan a part of its territory, despite the island being a de facto nation-state with its own democratically elected government, military, and currency. Beijing has threatened to use military force to bring the island under its fold. US-based China affairs commentator Tang Jingyuan said that the Shenzhen announcement was likely part of a propaganda strategy to intimidate Taiwan, Tang said in a phone interview, "It is a part of Xi Jinping's propaganda strategy on unifying Taiwan by force." Tang added that it's unlikely that Beijing would start a conflict, as the Chinese regime is facing political challenges. He said, politically, Xi is facing major challenges from different factions within the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese economy is in very bad shape. Taiwan has the support of the US, Japan, and several other developed countries, so China won't have a stronger military force than Taiwan and its allies. US-based Chinese democracy activist and scholar Wang Juntao told the Chinese language edition of the Epoch Times in an interview that he believed Xi would not start a conflict in the Taiwan Strait in the near future, but could do it before 2027. Wang's father was formerly a major general ranking officer at China's National Defense University. Wang has insider sources within the military. Wang said about half of the PLA senior commanders were promoted to current positions from non-combat forces in recent years, so they are not capable of commanding a real war right now. Secondly, a large number of PLA weapons are newly deployed ones, such as J-20 fighters. Soldiers need time to be trained on how to use these weapons. Japan's military has agreed to create a framework for protecting Australian Defence Force assets as the two countries forge stronger bilateral ties amid rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific. On October 19th, Japan's Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi announced the transition in a joint statement with Australian Defense Minister Linda Reynolds, who visited Tokyo for bilateral discussions with her counterpart. Kishi said, "Australia is our special strategic partner in the region, and Japan Ministry of Defense and Self-Defense Forces are going to deepen our bilateral defense cooperation and exchanges to uphold and reinforce the free and open Indo-Pacific." Reynolds concurred with Kishi, saying, "Japan and Australia share a vision for a region that is open, that is inclusive, and one where the sovereignty and the rights of all states, large and small, are respected." She added, "Australia and Japan are working together to enhance our defense partnerships right across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. I am so proud to be standing next to Kishi-san at the beginning of our productive and important working relationship for both our nations." Reynolds is currently shoring up Australia defense ties with the country's strongest Indo-Pacific allies, Japan, Singapore, Brunei, and the Philippines, to increase Australia's bilateral defense arrangement against security challenges in the region. Prior to departing for Japan on October 16th, Reynolds said that the Indo-Pacific is experiencing the most consequential strategic realignment since World War II. Reynolds said, "I will use my visit to deepen bilateral engagement with these important partners and friends who share our vision of an open, inclusive, and prosperous Indo-Pacific. Our partnerships with regional countries have a long history, and we are focused on further strengthening these relationships through expanding defense diplomacy, cooperation, and capacity-building activities." The move by Japan and Australia comes at a time when the Quad nations, Australia, the United States, Japan, and India, are seeking to send a clear message that they are strongly opposed to any coercive attempts by China to change the status quo in the Indo-Pacific, and especially in the South China Sea or the East China Sea. The Quad, or the Quadrilateral Security Alliance, was established by former Japanese President Shinzo Abe and was designed as a way to form an arc of democracy around the Indo-Pacific region. It is viewed by the Chinese Communist Party as the Asian NATO. Australia, Japan, India, and the United States are scheduled to participate in the Malabar exercises in the Indian Ocean in November. This will be the first time since 2007 that Australia has joined the military exercises. Announcing the news on October 20th, Reynolds said that Australia's participation will bolster the ability of India, Australia, Japan, and the United States to work together to uphold peace and stability across our region. The United States, Australia, and Japan have rapidly increased their military presence in the Indo-Pacific in the past 10 months, completing multiple military exercises in the Pacific since the start of the year, all in an effort to secure the region from China.
This year marks the 70th anniversary of the Korean War, 1950 to 1953. Beijing held a high-profile commemoration. eulogizing the Chinese Communist Party's great victory and claiming that its participation in the Korean War was a historic decision to protect our motherland. However, some Chinese netizens questioned who waged the Korean War. Some netizens also exposed that the CCP was not a winner, but a big liar in this war. On October the 19th, Chinese leader Xi Jinping led Vice Chairman Wang Qishan and 7 Politburo Standing Committee members to an exhibition named Resisting US, Aid North Korea. Xi claimed that the spirit of resisting the US aggression and aiding North Korea will certainly inspire China to overcome all difficulties and obstacles and defeat all powerful enemies. The CCP's military commission also approved the production of a documentary series, Resisting US, Aid North Korea. The CCP's mouthpiece, China Central Television, began to air it continuously on October the 18th, and the narrative is a blatant distortion of basic facts.
This commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the so-called Resisting US Aid North Korea is age-old propaganda that the CCP conducts every year. I think this time the CCP is bluffing, trying to embolden itself. The high-level CCP officials, including Xi Jinping, are all lacking confidence, a true feeling they want to hide.
The CCP claimed that it won the Korean War and protected world peace. Historian Yan Zhihua said this is the biggest lie, as the CCP lost in this war.
The military expenditures, weapons, and ammunition consumed during the 3-year war. Although the weapons were provided by Stalin and the Soviet Union, China paid for them, and the expenditures were finally passed on to the working people in China. Some people revealed it wasn't until 1960 that Mao Zedong paid off the military expenses the CCP owed to Stalin.
Historian Li Yuanhua believes that the whole world must take action to hold the culprits accountable for launching the Korean War.
Kim Il-sung launched this war of aggression against South Korea. He used the excuse that he was countering South Korea after South Korea crossed the 38th parallel. Because of his aggressive conduct, the United Nations and Western countries, led by the United States, passed a resolution and formed a coalition. The military alliance, led by the United States, then attacked North Korea. At this point, under the pressure from the Soviet Union, the CCP also participated in this war, in the name of resisting the United States and aiding North Korea.
Li Yuanhua said the Korean War lasted 3 years and came to an end when both sides reached a ceasefire agreement. There was no winner or loser, and South Korea and North Korea both went back to the states they were, still using the 38th parallel as the boundary.
There is no such thing as who should claim victory. It was a war of aggression when North Korea launched the war. As for the CCP, it either wanted to protect the communist camp or wanted to take the opportunity to further conquer Taiwan. It indeed had this purpose at the time, but the participation of the American troops shattered the CCP's dream to unify Taiwan. Therefore, the victory the CCP touted is a big lie. It is self-deceiving as well as deceiving others.
The Korean War was the most brutal war after the Second World War, causing 5 million deaths. The countries that participated in the UN troops all felt that they had paid a huge price. The CCP has never provided an accurate death toll for its volunteer soldiers, yet it is still celebrating the so-called victory. A Chinese netizen whose internet name is Red Willow wrote about one of his relatives who participated in the Korean War. He now lives in Canada and noticed that inside a park nearby, there is a sculpture in memory of Canadian soldiers who lost their lives in the Korean War. Every year on November the 11th, Canadians would come to commemorate these soldiers. He felt it was strange because the CCP never mentioned that other Western countries also participated in the war. He did some online research and discovered that the CCP was deceiving Chinese people about the Korean War. The so-called Resisting US was actually 3 communist regimes fighting against an 18-nation coalition. Another netizen said that the 18-nation coalition was implementing the UN resolution, and they were participating in the war in accordance with international law. The CCP did not dare to send formal troops and decided to recruit volunteer soldiers. The name of the Chinese troops was Chinese People's Volunteer Army, to clarify that it was not affiliated to the Chinese government. These netizens lamented that after they came abroad, they discovered that they were living in endless lies when they were in China.